Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of So You're Ready to Date. Here we are talking about something that is, I think, a major influence in most people's lives right now, in one form or another, regardless of what platform you're on. Today, we want to talk about social media and the effect that that plays in our relationships and our lives. And maybe it's time to take a step back, maybe it's not, but just really acknowledging and understanding how that plays a part in your life. But no matter what we say today, keep listening to our podcast.
This is an invitation in. We want to have this conversation. This is not a means to be like, oh, nope, not anymore. No, opening up this conversation because, like Angie said, you can't escape social media. I suppose you could. You're kind of like, I don't call you the leper of the village, but it very much, it's not the norm to not live your life full out in front of a social media. And so for all the good that social media can add to our lives, we also need to look at this. Just turned into an after school special, the dark side of social media.
To the dark side, sorry.
So this is by no means saying that social media is a bad thing. Like all of our episodes, like everything we want to talk about, it's bringing that level and that sense of awareness to you, to your relationship, to what's going on, so that hopefully you can kind of gauge for yourself what's healthy, what's not healthy, and how is this maybe affecting your relationship in a way that you weren't anticipating.
So I guess the very first question that I would ask or put out there, and even thinking about this for ourselves, is what is my relationship to social media? What am I using it for? How much time am I spending on it? And what type of content am I absorbing? Am I absorbing content that is feeding my brain, fueling me, that is giving me uplifting messages? Or am I feeding myself information, and is my feed filling me full of dread and fear and, oh, the world is ending, or, oh, all people of the same sex, opposite sex, whatever, anybody that I would potentially have as a life partner is bad? And is it making me doubt my ability to make good decisions in my relationships? Or am I feeding myself, stuff that's going to be uplifting and saying, yes, here are all of the things that bring good into your life, and here are all the things that would be a green flag, and here's how to go out and have fun in your relationship. And I think the first thing is to take stock and inventory of what we're consuming, because what we consume every day is what we're going to be focused on, and we get more of what we focus on. So if we're consuming the good, we're going to get more of that. And if we're consuming stuff that makes us feel bad or makes us feel weary or puts us in a defensive mode, we're going to get more of that.
There's a reason the algorithm works the way it works, right? The longer you stay on particular videos, the more you like, the more you comment. It works opposite to what you think. I mean, you see these people who make these negative comments and they're like, thank you for the engagement. You're just going to get more. So it is what you put out there, you're going to get more of. And I've made no secret of it lately that I've had to take a bit of a detox and a bit of a break from social media, because a lot of my feed was dating sucks, men are trash, and here are a bazillion red flags you should be watching for. So when I had the conversation with the guy I'm dating and him saying, I don't want to be posted on social media, of course, my first instinct is, oh my gosh, this is a red flag. This means he's got 15 secret families and he doesn't want to get posted because somebody's going to find it. As opposed to the fact that it's almost strange if you don't want to live your entire life on social media. I do. I live like a good 80% of my life is posted out there. It's who I am. It's part of my business. It's how I've attracted clients in the past. So I have no problem putting my face out there and sharing, but you forget that some people aren't built like that. They don't want to have anything and everything just spread out there for public consumption. And being, what's the word I'm kind of looking for? There's a way to look at this where you're like consuming and what you're doing, does it make sense for you? And if it doesn't make sense for somebody else, it's not necessarily a red flag. So it's trying to be conscientious and smart about what you're doing, because and a part of it was the social media, because I kept getting all of these things that, yeah, they didn't want to be posted because he secretly had this other girlfriend or he has this other life. And so I had to be very conscious, like, I can't do this anymore. I have to limit the amount that I'm out there, because it's making me look for red flags that I don't even think are there. People can be private. Why can't people just be private if they want to?
My significant other doesn't, he consumes some social media. He'll tell me that he doesn't. He's got an Instagram account, right? He scrolls through Instagram. He's a Pinterest person. So I'm not going to say that he's not on social media, but he doesn't do a lot of social media, and he doesn't want his picture out on social media a lot. Now, I'll admit, I've got a few pictures out there of us together, not really highlighted, not making a big deal out of it, not putting a big story out there. But he doesn't like that either. And that was something in the beginning that when I was in the same situation as you were, that was a red flag. Again, I Googled him, found alternate aliases. And anyways, it was this big ongoing joke between us after we got that all sorted out. And no, I don't think he's got another family. We've been together for 5 years. I'm pretty sure I would know at this point in life. So there's some of those things, but I think taking stock and taking inventory personally every few months, because social media is good at adjusting. We can adjust what we're seeing, we can adjust the content that we're looking for. And then if we don't stay diligent and aware of what we're bringing in, that content slowly morphs over time and becomes very different than when we cleaned it up and said, yes, this is bringing me all the positivity that I want. It is telling me how to nurture and grow my relationship, not how to look for red flags, that kind of stuff. And then pretty soon you are, one thing leads to another and you're right back where you started. So making a conscious effort to clean up your social media on a consistent schedule, I think, is important. Taking a detox is important too, but I think sometimes just cleaning it up on a regular schedule can be really important, and it can be really good self-care, and it can be a really good step for the status of your relationship, just for the dynamics in your relationship, because what you're focused on, you're going to get more of. So when you're focused on red flags, that's what you see.
Well, and I think the other part of that too is when you're focused on, well, look at them. They're all happy and lovey dovey and they're doing all these romantic things. And you look at your relationship. So there's that comparison trap that we can fall into, whether it's just personally as we're looking at somebody maybe we knew from high school and seeing their success, but we can also do that inside of our relationship and start to compare, like, are we romantic enough? Am I doing enough of this? Do I need to do more of that? How come he's not doing big romantic gestures? And how come? So falling into that trap of, again, we're comparing probably like 5 minutes out of somebody's life or even less, maybe 30 seconds of a day from them. And we're comparing an entire relationship with the fact that it doesn't look like everybody else's. We talked about it a little bit. And is this normal? Of coming to peace and coming to terms with the fact that you get to create a beautiful relationship that works for the two of you inside of it. You, who cares if your great aunt Flo, if your best friend, if your neighbor, if nobody else understands why it works or how it works, but if it works for the two of you in it, that's where your focus should be. But it gets hard when you're bombarded day after day with all of these happy, perfect couples. And you're like, we just can't stop fighting this week. What is wrong with us? And taking that step back and being like, all right, this is like a speed bump in the big road of our life. How can I step back, maybe get off social media for a hot minute or two and bring that focus back to your partner, bring that focus back to the two of you and connect in a way so that maybe you start to build that trust that excitement, that happiness between the two of you, as opposed to trying to put on something for the entire world to approve of and appreciate.
Oh, I love that. Comparison is the killer of joy, right? We can always find people who are in a current situation that appears to be better than what we have. It we can look at somebody else's grass and it may look greener, but you don't know how long they've been working to get there. You don't know how long their journey has been. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You don't know what's happening when the camera lens is off. You don't know any of that. So when you're comparing your relationship to that 30-second snippet, you're deteriorating joy that you may have had. Were you happy in your relationship before you saw that picture? Are you ruining your happiness, or are you letting outside influences take away from your happiness and satisfaction and joy in your own relationship because it doesn't look like somebody else's 30 seconds?
Right.
And so, one of the things that I've heard, and it's an old expression. I don't know how old it is. It's very old. I am not this old. So, but don't look at somebody else's pockets. Don't be jealous and envious of what's in somebody else's pockets, because you don't know. You don't know the whole story. You see a picture and you are creating the story inside of your head from that picture, from that post, from that moment. Suddenly you're creating a story inside your head. I think that goes back to when we were talking about the movies and the comedies, the romantic comedies that we watch, or the dramedies that we watch. And I have no idea, Lisa, you're way better at remembering episodes. And I think that was probably back in season 1. But we did talk about that previously, how it makes a good movie and it's a good selling point. And then we're comparing our relationship to that. And we want these big romantic gestures, but those big romantic gestures, although they're nice, they're not what creates that happy foundation that you're living off of. And that's what you're seeing on some of those social media posts, is just that big romantic gesture.
Well, it's like I can clean up enough stuff behind me so that the house looks perfect. The way the camera is facing, yeah, everything can look perfect. But what you don't see behind is the fact that you've got 15 piles of laundry, dishes in the sink, kids running around screaming. Is that, from the waist up, you look professional. From the waist down, you're wearing pajama bottoms or boxers or whatever it is that taking that moment to be, okay, is this real life, or am I curating a specific snippet so that I'm putting forward my best foot? And I'm not saying that that's good or bad. I mean, if that's totally what you want to do, that's fine. But I think we need to stop and think about, okay, how much of my relationship do I want to put on to social media? Because I think that comes back to bite us in the butt more often than not, is that we start to share all of this stuff, and then sometimes it snowballs. And all of a sudden we are in this spot where people are in our relationship that we didn't necessarily invite in. It's like that parasocial relationship you have with people online. You feel like you know them because you've seen enough videos, you've seen enough content from them. So you feel like you have this relationship with them, but you don't. So are you inviting people into your relationship who have no business being in your relationship? And then are they making decisions, whether you consciously do it or not? Are you making decisions for this relationship based on what can I post on social media? Because everybody likes to post when it's all sunny and rosy, but darn it, you stop posting when things go wrong. You have invited us into this space, and then all of a sudden you're like, yep, no, like, but you were sharing everything, and now it gets real and you're not. Again, you don't have to, you're not required to share anything like that, but you have to think about that aspect of, it's not always going to be good. Do you share both sides of that coin? Or how much do you want to invite others in? And whether you do this intentionally or not, it starts to, I think, affect how you behave in a relationship, because sometimes you're making decisions for two people, and you've got like 1.2 million people in the background saying, hey, I want to see a video on this. How come you're not talking about this? They're not in your relationship. It's the two of you. So are you letting more people in that need to be in your relationship?
Yeah. I think that's an important thing too. We talked about it in the is this normal? We've talked about it a lot, but really identifying what's important for you. And of course, we do this. You could do this. You were just talking about oversharing and what you put on social media and the good versus the bad. And a lot of what is put on social media, we do it to remember, to have it pop up in our memories. And we don't want that bad stuff to pop up the day that you break up with somebody or the day that you have a huge fight and you have a big puffy face and you're crying. You don't want that stuff to be popping up in your memories. That's not something that you want to relive over and over and over again. So there is a reason, a method to the madness of only sharing the positive snippets. And then there is that thing where people are comparing their relationship to what you're sharing. You're comparing your relationship to what they're sharing. And remembering that while it is real, it's only half the story, or it's only a quarter of the story. So I think that is, all the way around, whatever you want to share or not want to share is fine. But remembering who you're inviting in, remembering that they're only getting this little tiny piece of you in your relationship when you are sharing just the good points. Or maybe it's you need to vent and you're putting something out on social media that is negative, and all of a sudden, when that's all that you share and you don't talk about the good stuff, all of a sudden you have all of these influences in there telling you that your relationship is full of red flags and you need to bail on the relationship, when again, they're only getting a small snippet of the story.
Yes. I mean, it's kind of conversations that I've been having with the guy I'm seeing, is that we kind of keep having these conversations about what are our expectations, what do we want, and being fully okay with not sharing, because I don't know that I necessarily wanted to live out this relationship in front of a live studio audience. That's not what was going to be, I think, helpful for my mental health in the long run, because I didn't need more people weighing in on what was going on. I wanted to keep it special. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, is that no problem talking about our relationship and how it affects me, but I have no business talking about how it affects him and bringing up his name and talking about his details. I can talk about how I've felt and dealt with it, and I'm happy to do that. But again, it's respecting his privacy to be like, yeah, I just don't need all of that out there. And the fact of the matter is that he's incredibly supportive and has given me more podcast topics than a lot of people, because every once in a while I get a text, this long text. He's like, I think this would be a great podcast topic. So it's not that he's not fully supportive of me talking about it. He just would like his stuff to be private, and that I respect. And being able to have those conversations and know that it's not from some sort of him trying to be sneaky or mysterious or quote unquote just a regular guy about this. It's because he just values keeping certain things private. And I'm like, okay, that I can respect. Not everybody wants to dump their purse out on the internet like I do.
Wait a minute. What? That's not normal?
And I think that's kind of where we've gotten to, is that it's abnormal to not want to put every facet of your life on display. But I'm like, I have plenty of people in my life. My sister, for one, doesn't post on social media. Again, doesn't mean that she doesn't scroll Facebook and Instagram from time to time, but that's not weird. So why is it weird that just because it's a different kind of relationship, that it's all of a sudden strange that he doesn't want me to put it out there? So it's, with a grain of salt, looking at everything and being able to step back and say, but everything else in our relationship is solid. Why am I trying to make a big deal out of this one really not even significant part of our relationship?
That's important to remember too, because I know that was something, again, we struggled with. I wouldn't say struggled, that wasn't a thing, but that was something, right? You're going to come out here, you're going to talk about relationship stuff, and I can't share a ton of information about, I can, but I can't share a ton of information about my relationship with if I'm going to be respectful of his wishes and privacy and all of that. And so then there were some red flags at the beginning, and it was some time spent on Google, and it was, okay, you were joking about this alternate alias, but it actually comes up in Google. Tell me about this. What do I need to know? How am I going to meet your family? How is this all going to work? And working through some of that stuff to make sure that he was who he said that he was, and that everything was the way that he was telling me, and making sure that I wasn't getting in my own head, but ultimately being respectful of the, okay, we don't do social media that way. That's just not how social media is done in his mind, and being able to respect that, because I can respect that from other people in my life. So why not here as well?
Oh, yeah. Then again, affording them the same grace that you afford everybody else. But for some reason, like you said, it just hits differently. And I'm like, it's not like they're ashamed of me or anything like that. That's not it. It's just, like you said, respecting what their wishes are. And, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's the other part of it too, is like, it's not bad. Why are we making it into this thing of like, they're hiding something, this is not good? I'm like, no, they just don't need everybody in their business. And I can respect that.
Yeah. And I think that comes back to filtering out what you're letting in. Because you can go out there and, what does it mean when my significant other won't let me post on social media? Okay, so that is going to flood your feed with all kinds of things that are going to make you feel bad and question your relationship. So the way that I would recommend or start, and everybody's situation is different, and I am not licensed in any way, shape, or form to give you advice. So take this advice at your own risk or whatever. But I would start with sitting back and really thinking about, what steps do I want to take to determine if I feel comfortable? Do I want to utilize Google? Do I need to meet family members? What steps do I need to take to feel comfortable in my relationship? And if I can't come up with any, or I feel like I need to be invasive and snoop through a phone, or if I need to go search through social media to ask what it means, that kind of stuff, then it sounds like a lack of trust in your relationship. And you can go back and listen to our episode on trust and talking about trust, because that's one of the things that you ultimately have to have. But I know sometimes when you're just getting started in a new relationship, that doesn't come super easy or super quickly, especially if you've been burned in the past. But social media certainly isn't going to help you find ways to trust your partner when you're bringing in these are all red flags, and these are the things that you need to get out of your life.
That is an important distinction, because there were plenty of times I had to stop myself. I'm like, is this a red flag, or am I just being insecure about something? Is this a red flag, or is this just something that is a me thing and not necessarily a him thing? And sometimes it is, and sometimes it was having those clarifying conversations, but sometimes it was, we're 3 months in, you're not going to know everything, but has he been forthright when the questions were asked? Yes. So I think it's learning to look at the history of what your relationship has been so far. Have they been open to answering questions when things have come up? Or does it feel like they're being sneaky or evasive? It takes a while to get to know somebody, but does it feel like you can't ever trust what they're saying? So I think it's that internal investigation. It's questioning, is this something that is a me thing that I need to work on from past relationships? Or is this something coming from them that I need to be concerned about and question further?
And I think that's important too, that your answer to those questions is not going to be found externally. It's going to be found by sitting with yourself, whether that's meditation, whether that's journaling, whether that's whatever, to decide if that is a red flag, or to decide if that is a trust issue, or to decide if that's a me issue or a them issue. That's on me to decide. That is not on the rest of the world, because everybody's going to have a different opinion. Everybody's going to have a different perspective. Everybody has a story that has led them to where they're at, and their story is going to color that perspective. And you can get any answer that you are looking for. You can find any answer out there that you're looking for. So sit with it yourself. And if fear is stopping you from making a decision, or fear is stopping you from moving forward, or self-doubt or not trusting yourself or not believing in yourself is stopping you from moving forward, that's something to acknowledge too. And maybe at that point, bring in a friend versus social media and the peanut gallery. Bring in somebody that you trust, that has your best interests at heart, and that is supportive and helps you facilitate your decisions rather than helps you make decisions for you.
Well, because usually bringing in that kind of trusted third party, they probably already know your history, and they know a little history about the person you're with or the thing that you've got questions on. And so inviting that in, and sometimes honestly, it was a matter of, do I really need to be overthinking this, or am I just bored? So, I mean, I know that sounds kind of flippant, but a lot of times that's what it was. It was me trying to pour so much of myself into this relationship that I was starting to get lost in this idea of needing to know everything all the time, and all, are we texting enough? Are we not, so you start to overthink everything. I'm like, I just need to get back to my hobbies. I need to get back to living my life, inviting this person in, because when I am active and doing the things that I love and that bring me joy, all of a sudden I don't have to worry that it took him 2 hours to respond to a text, or I don't have the time or the energy to overthink everything as a potential red flag. This is not to say that there aren't red flags, and we never want to dismiss that or downplay that in any respect. But we need to be aware that sometimes we are creating mountains out of molehills. We're creating an issue and a problem that's not there. So if you feel like you're having these issues where you just can't trust anyone, then maybe it's time for a relationship break. Maybe it's time for us or you or whoever to stop, talk to a professional, and be like, it seems like every relationship I get in, I'm trying to find everything they did wrong, doing the criminal background check, doing the Google check, the Facebook. I think I need to work on some stuff with me and my trust issues, and bringing a person in. So getting myself as healthy as I can be, so that the next person who comes in, it's not going to be perfect, but maybe you can bypass this need to cyber stalk them and build that trust and that faith in what they were telling you is actually the truth.
So coming back full circle to, is social media affecting your love life? The answer is probably. Whether it's influencing you positively or negatively, that's completely within your control. Whether you need to take a step back, or whether you can continue to be engaged because you're in a good space, also up to you. But I think the main message of our topic today is just take an inventory of it and be self-aware of where you're at and what influences you're letting in.
Yes. Yeah. The self-awareness, the thing everybody wants, but is so hard to get sometimes, right?
Yes. Yes. Always striving, always striving. There's always room for improvements, because we are all always going to have blind spots. However, if you have blind spots, or if you have things that you would like us to shed some light on, help you figure out how to improve your self-awareness, or topics that are plaguing you in general in all things dating, love, and relationships, please send us an email at soyourreadytodate@gmail.com, or tag us on social media, or however you want to communicate with us. Just let us know. We love to hear your stories, and we definitely want to talk about things that are meaningful to you. So feel free to reach out, and we will see you next week.